If you somehow found my channel, hi. My name is rant, also known as Isaac. I'm going to throw in some Minecraft gameplay and pick a topic that I just want to talk about. I'm not a professional at this, so feel free to leave suggestions on how I can do this better. But I'm just going to be talking about my thoughts and experiences I had in subjects, and for these videos, I'm going to be following a loose script. I have some ideas that I've just written down, but I'm going to expand on them as we get more into the video. The first video we're going to be doing Christian dating. In my opinion, Christian dating has become way more complicated than it needs to be. Between social media, church culture, gossip, rejection, and all the advice that gets thrown around, I think we accidentally made dating harder than it needs to be. This isn't an attack on my faith. I enjoy my faith, and I'm deeply devoted into pursuing my faith deeper and deeper. There are just some things that I notice about Christians nowadays and Christians on the internet that affect young Christians, especially young adults, in the topics that I'm going to be talking about. Wanting marriage isn't the same as putting a marriage above God. If you've been on Christian Instagram lately, you'll likely see some reels that pop up that may say, "You are idolizing marriage. You are placing marriage above God." Now, tell me this. As someone who's seeking dating, and as a Christian, if you're seeking dating, you're eventually seeking marriage, how is this beneficial to your pursuit of that? Now, yes, I'm not saying that people who idolize marriage don't exist. For sure. There are people that do place marriage above God. But as someone who's seeking marriage, the way these videos are worded, the way that they're phrased, may make Christians feel like it's shameful to pursue marriage, that it's not okay because you don't want to risk putting marriage above God. So tell me this. How is there marriage without God? As Christians, we understand that marriage is a covenant that binds two people for life, and it's made before man and before God. Why are we shaming Christians for desiring something that is of God? God is the foundation of marriage. In fact, as Christians, God is the foundation of everything we do. So for instance, if I say, I desire to serve others just like Jesus served others, and we're supposed to reflect that desire to serve others is not in competition with my relationship with God, with my desire for God. In fact, it's what helps strengthens it. A godly marriage is supposed to flow from your relationship with God, not compete with it, as other things you may pursue in your pursuit of Christ. I think it's a common phenomenon that young adults in churches and Christian communities have a hard time pursuing dating. It's something that they're meant to figure out on their own, that church mentors and leaders don't want to be involved with. If you're a single Christian like myself, you may have brought these topics up with your mentor before, and they always say the same thing. We've all heard, "It'll happen when you least expect it. Just wait. It's not your season. Just wait on God's timing." As single Christians, we've heard this countless times. Now, I'm not saying the advice is wrong. I'm just saying that it's incomplete. They often say these statements to end the conversation rather than offer legitimate advice. It doesn't matter if you've been single for a week, a month, 6 months, or multiple years. You're going to hear the same thing from your mentors. I think the solution as a mentor should be to listen and try to understand where that person is coming from. I think with the advice that they give, they lead people to expect that their future spouse will show up on their doorstep, that God will tell them in a dream, and God will point them out in a crowd on who their future husband or wife is going to be. And I'm here to tell you that's probably not going to happen. I myself disciple single men in my church community and have the same frustrations as I do when it comes to the topic of dating. And rather than offer them these blanket statements, I try to understand where they're coming from. I try to understand their story, their history with dating, and just experiences with dating in general before I try to give the best advice that I can. Now, here's some dating advice I can give you, the viewer, from the perspective of someone who wants to pursue a relationship as well. So take it with a grain of salt, as I am not married, so my advice may not work the best for you, and I may have some controversial opinions. Starting with number 1. The man is the one to pursue. I know that can be scary for some of you, me included, that us being the one to pursue can be daunting at times. The fear of rejection may get to us, but the reason I say the man has to pursue is because the man is going to be the one that eventually leads that relationship. As Christ is the head of the church, the man is the head of the woman. Now, in a dating relationship, yeah, that's not going to be the case until you're married. However, being the one that pursues shows that you can be a leader. Point number 2. Dating to marry does not mean that the first person you date is going to be the one that you marry. This could be taken 2 different ways. One perspective can be, the first girl I date means that she has to marry me, or the first person I date, I have to marry her. If those statements sound like I said the exact same thing, let me break it down for you. The first person I date has to marry me. This perspective is oftenly common for men, thinking that the first girl that dates him means that she's his wife. This is adjacent, or even the same guy who says, I saw you in a dream and God told me that you're my wife. God did not tell you that. This is extremely manipulative, and you should immediately get away from that guy. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, the first person I date, I have to marry. This perspective is more common among the non-manipulators. Well, you finally did it. You worked up the courage to ask that girl out, and she said yes. But it sets in. Oh no, I have to marry this girl. I date to marry, right? So that means if I'm dating her, I have to marry her. Or, if you're getting asked out by someone, you may have that daunting feeling like, oh, if I say yes, I have to marry them. Did he just propose to you? No, he asked you out on a date. Vice versa. I'm saying this because a lot of us think that the first person we're going to date is going to be our future spouse. Yes, date to marry, but the person you're dating may not be the person you're marrying. You don't have to have it all figured out before you go on that first date. That's what dating is for, is to get to know each other, to see if we're a fit, to see if we can go together and pursue God together. Point 3. While the men are the pursuers, the women are the inviters. Now, this point can be taken with more of a grain of salt than my previous other points, because, for one, I am a man. But the reason I say this is, if you're a woman who's seeking a godly relationship, and you have a crush on this boy, well, you're not the one that's supposed to pursue, so what do? You invite him to pursue you. As simple as that. This looks different for everybody, but if you like that boy, let him know. You don't have to be upfront about it, which you could be, but make it known that you like him, and as the person who's supposed to pursue, he'll pursue you if he feels the same. And guys, look for that invitation. If the girl is obviously not interested in you, there's no need to pursue her. Point 4. Should I be friends with them first? Or should I just ask them out because I think they're cute? If you've been on Christian media, this question seems to have both sides split. If you're friends with them, you already know if you get along. You already know if you have things in common, and you have a general idea if you'll be a good fit for each other. The downside is, you've been friends with them for a while, and you let your feelings out. It could make things awkward. And it kind of sucks, because you did like them as a friend too. So it seems easier to maybe ask the cute girl you see at church. Your intentions are clear at the start, and you don't have to worry about losing a friend. My take on this is that it can go either way. I think there's a lot of relationships that start off with being friends first, and that friend foundation is good. However, I think that as long as that girl you see at church, you've been seeing her going to church, and it's not just a first time being at church, and she's not a new Christian. I think it's pretty subjective to each person, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. That's the end of my segment for dating. However, you can leave a comment if you agree with me or disagree, or you just have constructive criticism for me. For me, I'm always open to grow and have ideas exchanged, so feel free to do that. This next segment, I'm going to be talking about rejection. I'm going to be talking from both perspectives, as someone who's been rejected, and then what your reaction should be if you reject someone. And for that, I'm going to be sharing a personal story of the many, many times I've been rejected. The subject in this story is going to be a different name from who they actually are. Just in case they find this YouTube video. So, this girl, we're going to codename Stacy. I liked for quite some time. Maybe a year at this point. I still haven't worked up the courage to ask her out on a date. Until one day, where I decide to ask her to meet me at a common location where us and our college ministry meet up. And so she agrees, and we meet there. For more context, she already knows what we're going to be talking about. Not because I told her over text, but because of gossip. And I'll be talking about gossip in dating, or just in Christian community in general, in a future point in this video. So we meet up, and I basically just tell her how I feel about her. I was loose friends with her. We had a lot in common. We were on the worship team together. We both kind of had the same mindsets about things, and we were both just similar to each other. And I thought, hey, maybe I could ask her out on a date. Now, she doesn't necessarily say, I reject you. She didn't say no to my offer. She basically told me she was interested in another guy, and she was hoping that things would work out with this guy. Mind you, this guy had a girlfriend. But basically, I took it as rejection. So, what do you do when you get rejected? Well, it's just as simple as nothing. She rejected you, and that's all. Now, what if she says, hey, we can still be friends? Can you still be friends? But before I answer that, I'm going to tell you what to do when you're the person who rejects them. When you reject someone, you must be clear with it. Like the Bible says, let your yes be yes, let your no be no. The problem with Stacy is that she didn't tell me no. She left in a little glimpse of hope that maybe one day, or maybe if things don't work out with this guy that I really like, maybe you can be the one. Now, ladies, if you don't like the guy, don't give him hope. And vice versa for men too. If you reject the girl, don't give her hope. But can you be friends? I think you can. In order to do this, just be clear that you're going to be friends. There's no chance for nothing more. I'm going to tell you another story about Stacy. This is about 6 months after I get rejected by her. We end up going on a trip together, a missions trip, to a place I cannot say, but we went together and it was overseas. I had no intentions of pursuing her anymore. We were just friends, we were friendly with each other, and I just wanted to be friends. However, I did not make that clear in our initial talk. So, on this trip, she has the feeling that maybe I'm still after her. Maybe I'm still wanting to pursue her. And this makes things awkward. These other two girls on the trip end up talking with her. As one of the only two single guys on the trip, obviously there's going to be some drama. Maybe just casual conversation, but they want there to be drama or something to happen on the trip. So, these girls, they ask Stacy, hey, how do you feel about me? Well, her response is, I've been praying for him to find any girl but me. Ouch. That hurt. Now I wasn't even trying to pursue you anymore. I was just trying to be friends with you. But my friendliness may have come off as something different towards her, because we never made things clear. We never cleared the air. So this is why I say, make your intentions clear. When you get rejected by someone, saying, hey, can we be friends? And mean it. Don't have any false intentions where, oh, I'm hoping in a couple months that they'll change their mind about me. I'm telling you this, that's probably not going to happen. But it could. But don't hold on to that. Be friends. And mean it when you say you want to be friends. As simple as that. This lesson is, they should have dated me. The lesson is, kindness matters even when rejecting someone. For my next section, I'll be talking about physical attraction and how it matters, but not as much as we've made it to be. I'm not saying physical attraction is fake or that it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. You should be attracted to the person you're dating. I think we've elevated physical attraction to a level where it overshadows character. And I believe that because we live in a generation that is full of lust. Now, you could say, I'm a Christian. I've conquered lust. I may have struggled with it in the past. I'm no longer addicted to pornography, and I don't let it shape how I view the opposite gender. That can be true. I've fought my battles, and I'm sure you had yours. But when you're having those prayers, when you're praying for your future partner, and you want them to love God, you want them who genuinely pursues Christ, is kind, honest, and shares in your values, but they're not the height you want, the hair color you want, the eye color you want. Maybe they don't have muscles. They don't have as big as muscles as you want, and their toes look funny. Now, I'm being over-exaggerating right now, but you see my point. We're not building a Barbie doll as men, and we're not building a Ken doll as women. It's as simple as that. I can say for both of us, in 50 years down the line, none of that is going to matter. I'm not saying anyone owes anyone a date. Nobody does. But I think our culture, Christian culture included, has started treating first impressions and appearance as more important than the qualities that we've been praying for. So here's my question to you, the viewer. How do you know whether you're compatible with someone if you never give someone the chance to get to know you? As for the Stacy situation, she did have a level of physical attraction toward me. While it may not have been the same as the guy she had a crush on, I don't think that warranted a rejection. Now, if the Lord needs to humble me in this next statement, I'll let him. But I feel like I have some qualities that she was praying for. As a side note, this sounds like I'm not over her. I am, just making that clear. For this next section, I'll be talking about how gossip is destroying Christian dating. For starters, gossiping is a sin. It is one of the most normalized sin in Christian communities, or at least from what I've experienced. And it affects dating more than people know. I will be telling another story. Obviously, I'm going to be hiding the names again, but I digress. The story is about a girl named Sarah. Now, Sarah and I are really good friends. We went on a missions trip last year, and it was on this missions trip that this story takes place. Now, I didn't know her before this trip, and on this trip I got to know her really well. We have a lot in common, and we had a lot of similar interests. So, on this trip, I may have told one of the other guys on the trip that I can see me and her dating in the future, but I did mention also that, hey, we're on a missions trip together, a guy and a girl, we're spending a week together. I could fabricate feelings that aren't actually there because, hey, I want something interesting to happen. I desire a relationship. But I told myself I'd give myself a week after the trip to see if those feelings are still there. But the guy I told about these feelings decided to mention it to one of her friends. And, I mean, you know how gossip works, right? So after giving it a couple weeks, it turns out I don't like her like that. For now. But at this point, I didn't know that, hey, she knows that I may have mentioned that I like her. So, fast forward a year later, we're good friends, and I end up catching feelings for her again. But this time, it's not because we're spending time together for a week, it's just because I have a genuine attraction to her. Now, here's the problem. Because of the gossip, Sarah has been waiting for me to ask her out for a year and a half at this point. So, when I end up doing it, she says, "I've been waiting to reject you." Wow. Things are very awkward now. Now, gossip can do far worse things than what happened to me. And there are countless times where I hear, even in my own community, about gossip about relationships. It is not my place to know about your relationship. It is not my place to make a judgment about your relationship. I'm not in your relationship, and you're not in mine. So why talk about it? Why do relationships in Christian communities get talked about the most? I believe it's because a lot of us desire a relationship, a desire to be married, a desire to be a father or a mother, but us talking about other people's relationships, whether or not they're going good or bad, is kind of a way to cope with the fact that we're not in a relationship. And with crushes as well. When crushes are getting exposed, it ruins the purpose of the man who's supposed to pursue. Like in my first point. How are people supposed to ask someone out if everyone in the church knows before the person does? In this next section, I'll be ranting about double standards and inconsistency. In my final story, I'll be discussing about someone we're going to call Cole and Stacy again. So, what if you are a Christian that's in a relationship? Well, I will tell you not to be like this guy. So Cole, he's in a relationship that is founded on God. They both love Jesus, and they both love each other. Now enter in Stacy. She's made her grand return. Stacy, at first, doesn't know Cole's in a relationship. Stacy may flirt with Cole. Now, what should Cole's response be? Well, I hate to break it to you. Cole decides to flirt back. Now, as an outsider looking in, I thought I was jealous. I thought I was just seeing things. I thought I was like, hell, I'm just seeing them flirt because I'm jealous that Stacy's flirting with him and he's flirting back, and Stacy wouldn't flirt with me. Well, when it turns out that I wasn't the only one who noticed it, that's when things got weird. How can you actively flirt with someone when you have a girlfriend? To me, this is wrong. So, my point being, why do we shame single people for wanting relationships while excusing behavior from people already in relationships? Another side note, Stacy isn't a terrible person. I know in these stories she may come across, and that could be some of my own bias towards her, which I don't even dislike Stacy. I think she's a great person. I just think some of her actions weren't quite the best. This is my final section, the conclusion. I've been trying to think about a conclusion for this video, and to be honest, this video is all over the place. But my biggest issue with Christian dating culture isn't the rejection, isn't the gossip, isn't the bad advice, it's the shame. Why do we feel shamed or embarrassed when we say we want to get married? We are being told that if you want a spouse, that just means you don't love God enough. You want to be married? Just be content where you're at. There's a difference between making marriage your identity and simply desiring it. Scripture describes marriage as a good gift. So why do we sometimes make people feel guilty for hoping they'll experience that gift? Here's my advice. If you are a mentor, or someone who disciples someone, or a leader in the church, I want to give you this challenge. If someone in your church says they're struggling with being single, don't immediately try to fix them. Don't assume they're idolizing marriage. Listen to them. Encourage them. Pray with them, and remind them that their value isn't determined by their relationship status. But don't shame them for wanting something good. I believe Christian dating can be better. We just have to stop making people feel guilty for desiring something God himself called good. TLDR, I still believe God has someone for me. I still believe marriage is good. I still believe the church can do dating better. I just think we need to stop shaming people for wanting marriage, stop spreading everybody's business, and start treating each other with more honesty and more kindness. Well, that's the end of my rant. There's more I would like to talk about dating, but that could be for a separate video. If you'd like to hear more about a certain point, please let me know in the comments. If you disagree with me, please let me know in the comments. I will be responding to every comment I get on this video. Please give me constructive criticism. I want to know what you thought about the video, the format, and what I can change. And for that, I'm going to end off by praying. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this viewer. I thank you that they spent a part of their day with me watching my video. And Lord, I just pray that if they're seeking someone, Lord, that you can just be there with them in this time of seeking. And with that, pray this all in your name. Amen. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.